A long time ago, in an era far removed from today, there existed the Golden Age of Consumerism. Baby boomers were the first generation to have been raised during this period. New industries and technological advancements emerged, creating an unprecedented array of new jobs, careers, services, and products. Underneath all of this change, a new wave of generational and cultural transformation was rising. It was no secret that as the 1980s gave way to the 1990s, boomers were aging. However, their idea of life on the other side of 50 looked absolutely nothing like their parents, grandparents, or any previous generation before them. By refocusing and renewing their lives, those entering the 50 and over club were radically rewriting the rules of aging. Being 50 and over was no longer a fast track to death, but a chance to live life to the fullest. Some brands took notice, such as those in the travel, beauty, and healthcare industries. In these instances, the storylines and imagery depicted the 50 and over consumer through lively, positive, and inviting reflections. There was also a new, lucrative cottage industry that sprang up in the 1980s. This industry directly catered to the boomer nostalgia with themed events that focused on music and vintage cars, as well as restaurants and clothing. And yet, outside of local or regional advertising for such events, none of this made it into the mainstream narrative. Aside from the few brands who understood how to navigate unprecedented change with the 50-plus consumer, the larger mainstream narrative about life after 50 remains stuck in a depressing time capsule.
Hi, I'm Joanie Marx. I'm a 3-time international best-selling author and the creator of 3 acclaimed online courses for Udemy.com, and I'm welcoming you to this 4th episode of The Invisible Customer with All the Money. This 7-part series is based on nearly 15 years of research into the 50-plus consumer, and some of the material in this series is edited excerpts from the first chapter I wrote for The Expert's Cure, which is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller. And so the question is for today is, how did this customer who was coveted and everything was focused toward suddenly become the invisible customer with all the money? The golden age of consumerism benefited not only boomers, but their children who happened to be Generation X. Both reaped the benefits of quick and easy access to products with indoor malls. But the good times wouldn't last forever. As boomers were hitting their peak spending years and Generation X were entering their 20s, the golden age of consumerism was peaking. Despite the major fluctuations in the economy during the 80s and the 90s, baby boomers' purchasing power and influence increased to unparalleled levels well into the 2000s. But then something very odd happened. The relationship between them and the brands they had been loyal to for decades steadily decreased to the point where the 50-plus consumer became invisible. How did the myth of aging and the disengagement theory show up in the media? Emotionally relevant messaging and relatable likeness to the 50-plus consumer drastically decreased in ad campaigns. From the middle to the late 90s and into present day, when the 50-plus consumer was shown in national campaigns, they are presented as bumbling fools for comic relief or portrayed as old, barely able to move, and unsexy. The myth of aging and the belief that once you are 50 plus, you are not active or relevant to what is hip and cool was leaking into the storylines and the visuals for brand campaigns. Only the boomers were nothing like their parents or their grandparents, who were the basis for the disengagement theory. Let's now look at the 50-plus consumer who are living longer than previous generations, and that means that their life choices and their habits are very different than earlier generations.
Not only are boomers living longer, more abundant lives than their parents and grandparents, but they are enjoying a far more active lifestyle, and this includes remaining in the workforce. For a group that is supposed to go quietly into the night of their retirement, why are so many choosing to keep working? Many people's savings and investments took a huge dip following the global financial crisis in 2008. This forced them to either start new businesses or hold off on retirement. And according to ARP, the 50-plus consumer enjoys working because it keeps their minds sharp and their days active. Also, the advancements in technology has opened up more opportunities for work than what generations before them ever had access to. These modern-day realities are rarely portrayed through a positive narrative in the media for people 50 and over. If told with authenticity and emotional relevancy, this data can serve as a basis for successful campaigns targeted to 50-plus consumers, but rarely is it. This did not go unnoticed by the invisible customer with all the money, nor did it go unchecked by Wall Street. In the next 2 episodes of Joanie's 7-part series on the invisible customer with all the money, she will highlight the paradox of once successful brands who rose to prominence catering to the baby boomer market, only to crash and burn because they chose to ignore them as they aged. How can Joanie Marx improve your brand loyalty with the 50-plus consumer? As a brand story advisor to the 50-plus market, as your brand spokeswoman to the 50-plus market, online workshop for your team on the 50-plus consumer, and a project that includes all 3 of these options. To arrange a complimentary consultation or book Joanie for an engaging interview on your podcast, email her today at joanie@joaniemarx.com.